I picked a reading from How It Works, starting on page 62, right in the middle of a subject matter, but I think we can all get it. It's the first full paragraph, starting with selfishness, self-centeredness. That, we think, is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the Father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. And I'm going to stop there, Paul, unless you want me to continue.
No, that's all right. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Kathleen. I got the page a little later, but if anyone's interested in here, first of all, welcome. If you haven't heard of these old guys, Joe and Charlie, they've passed away, but they have a lot of information still out in the internet, I think, and they're reading and then going over and sharing how they saw what was being said in the big book was quite helpful when I came in. That was a big turning point. When I went to the first Joe and Charlie seminar up in Sacramento. I went for 2 more years, and then I think I had enough, and I felt like what was needed occurred, so move on. Yes, but they're just so here. What we're doing here is just sharing something that I didn't hear much in recovery at the meetings I went to in AA in San Francisco and around the world, really. And I think it's quite important. To me, it was so important when it hit me that it basically told me, if you don't see this, you're going to be looking from the dilemma. Yeah. And because the head has us in the act of being identified as self. Yeah. And it has that as a historical fact. Yeah. Yet all the gluing is the selfing. It's a mental activity. But the trickiness of it is you don't feel like you're becoming self. You think you already are one. Yeah. This is amazing, really. Because the possibilities, if you were becoming self, would be vast. You could go left or go right or turn around or whatever and not become self. But the possibilities when you are self already become quite limited. Yeah. And many of us, as real addicts and alcoholics, saw what happens when we took one exit door, which is trying to get out of self. Yeah. Seemed like the only option, really. So, and then you started doing it a little, and then you did a lot. And of course, the payoff cost ratio shifted. You were getting less payoff, more cost. But at that point, the addiction had set up, and you were just being used for transportation. Yeah. So this idea, when we're listening to the head, it has us already as what we call self in recovery. Yeah. And then we want to get out of it because it's freaking irritable, restless, discontent, uncomfortable. We, all we think about when we're in New Jersey to go is to get to Hawaii. When we get to Hawaii, all we think about is New Jersey. It just doesn't fucking work. Yeah. It just doesn't leave you alone to enjoy where you are. So this bondage of self is really, the bondage is an activity that goes on either more or less every day, but the self is taken to be a fact by the head. Yeah, this is the dilemma. It really is. So this is a tricky disease because it has you identified as the disease. It's sort of like if you caught a cold and then you lived seemingly as a cold the rest of your life. Yeah, or a flu, the flu comes and luckily we know that it goes. But what would happen if a flu came and jacked into our head and told us we were the flu? It's that insane. Because in this case, the problem, like let's say certain cancers reside in the lungs or in the anus or in the wherever, but here the problem resides in the head. Yeah. And it's not a thing you can take out. It's an activity. Yeah. There's not a thing called alcoholism that's lodged in our brain that if they finally succeed and get enough surgical competence, they could go in there and without hurting anything else, just carve out that alcoholism and throw it in, or have it in a certain weird laboratory, and then they'd have an outbreak, and it would be alcoholism would be the next pandemic, even though it is a huge pandemic. You know what I mean? It's so fucking amazing. Alcoholism is a huge pandemic because the alcoholic affects a lot of people. Now, they may not be infected and become alcoholics, but they're affected quite a lot. That's why there's tons of other programs that grew out of people who are willingly or unwillingly engaged with alcoholics. Codependency, Al-Anon, fucking children of alcoholics. There's thousands of them because we're quite infective. We infect people with the shit. So we're worried about a pandemic, but we're in a pandemic. I mean, obviously, addiction is running rampant now, like it never, like it always has. But right now, we're in this now, and it seems like it's really fucking amped up. And they find more shit, yeah, for the addiction to express itself through. It has stuff now that if you take it, your skin falls off. Can you imagine sitting there? Skin fall off, take it, skin fall off. I'm gonna take it. Fuck it. Who cares about? I mean, you must be driven by something to do that. Yeah. So what happened? Did you ever hear of fentanyl like 10, 20 years ago? Probably not. Now it's the new scourge. Before that, it was the oxycodone, and now fentanyl shows up. It's amazing, eh? But no one addresses it as a pandemic in a weird way. It's a giant business opportunity. You can open up a sober living house, get 12 fucking unrecovered alcoholics in there, paying you rent, and you make some cash, and it's a place for them to have a demise, a pitiful, incomprehensible demise. It's just crazy. So, but here, get back. Sorry I went off on that, but it just blows me away. You watch these movies on TV and everyone is totally incredibly committed to finding the one killer when systems killed millions of us. Yeah, no one goes to jail. No one fucking, yeah, they put some shit in some food that they shouldn't have put in. Tons of people fucking die or get ill. Nothing happens there. But that one person who killed somebody, it's like 4 seasons of a fucking crime thriller. Don't you see things are out of proportion? So here, the simple solution that happened with me, I finally saw what was defeating me and had defeated me as foreign to me. That was it. A giant door opened up and I could walk through it a free man. Now, that walking through it could be 30 years, could be one day, could be whatever, but there's a walking through it to freedom, like the archway. Yeah. And now I'm in a daily condition for years now, and I do not work at it. I'm not lifting fucking spiritual weights in the morning. I'm a condition where the problem doesn't exist for me today. Yeah. So my decisions are not based on self. They're not. So here we go. Selfishness, self-centeredness. How much bigger clue can you need? Two attributes of the same thing that defeated us, self. And you go to page 64, they make a very clear distinction between self and us ain't self. Yeah. It ain't. There's a very clear separation. The head does not have that clear separation. The head has us as self. And it gives us a way of looking called self-centeredness, which is obviously, it's not us-centeredness. Yeah, we're not suffering from us-centeredness or a life run on us will. We're defeated by a life run on self-will. And we're looking at everything in a self-centered way. And that self-centeredness isn't the center. It's manufactured. What we are is the center. Yeah? What would happen if basically you can't see? You'd have to listen to guidance, wouldn't you? So the head has us in a fucking without knowing, unsuspected, all these conditions, and basically it lends itself to be our guide. And it will willingly it overdoes it a lot, but it will tell us what it was like, what it's going to be like, what it's like now, what they were like, what they're going to be like, what they're like now. And it just plays God all day. And we're blind, so we can't really compare what it's saying to what's happening. Really? I mean, because for some of us in the depths of that addiction, we're not conscious of what's happening. We're only conscious of the thought stream that's happening, and that thought stream is about what's not happening. So our consciousness is null and voided. We are awake, but we're not living like we're awake. So we're asleep. This is why we need a spiritual awakening. And this is the program's design, to produce a spiritual awakening where there'll be a sufficient enough loss of interest in self that all of these remarkable things can start landing in your life. That's it, literally. Now, how can you get rid of self if you're taking yourself to be self? If you're taking you to be self, how are you going to get rid of it? Please show me that trick. I haven't seen it. It's like that ice capades and that quadruple thing. I haven't seen a human do it yet. Now someone has. You know, you tell me, oh yeah, if I do this, I'll be out. I don't see it. Yeah. How can you get rid of self if you're self, seemingly? You'd be there, wouldn't you? If you believed you got rid of it, the one that was still there would be the demonstration you didn't, because there you were as self. Yeah. I thought when I shot coke, I disappeared, but I didn't to the police. The police saw me. I thought I was out. I went out. I left, but the police came in the room. They had no trouble discovering me. They came right to where I was and handcuffed me like that. They weren't, oh, we don't see him. So, all right. So selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. So once again, they're basically giving us another description of the root or the base or the exact nature of the wrong. Yeah. And it always has self in it somewhere. So here it is twice: selfishness, self-centeredness. Yeah, that we think is the root of our troubles. It didn't say anything about us. Yeah. Did it? It didn't say us being selfish and us being self-centered. No, it says selfishness and self-centeredness. It's not us doing it, it's doing it. The mental state's doing selfishness and self-centeredness. We're identified as this, so we think it's us being selfish and us being self-centered. Yes, yes, and no. Does it say our selfishness and our self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles? No, it doesn't. It calls it its own existence. Selfishness exists on its own. It's coming through us because the portal has been opened in the mental state. So selfishness and self-centeredness is expressing itself through us, and we're pinned as the one who's selfish and self-centered. Don't you see that as the defeat of self? Is that not the defeat of self? Selfishness, self-centeredness. Wow. Right now, as a topic, it's not defeating me. It isn't. We're just reading it. When I say selfishness, oh, wow. Yeah. But my selfishness, my self-centeredness, that defeats me. Do you see the ownership of it? That's the doorway. That's the doorway for it to constantly override us, to have us as a form of transportation. It's expressing its nature, which is selfish and self-centered, through us, and we're calling it our nature. That is the act of being identified as self. I rest my fucking diagnostic case. If you can't see it now, I don't know what else to say. I have faith everyone in AA can hear it, because we have massive amount of evidence of being defeated by self. We have. We don't have to gather any more evidence. The whole fucking shit's there. Just have to wear a different pair of glasses and maybe see it. Yeah. Self is what has defeated us. How did it defeat us? Through selfishness and self-seeking and frightened and self-centeredness. Oh, I thought it was me that was selfish, self-seeking and frightened, self-centeredness. That's the diagnosis of the exact nature of the wrong. You're in the act of being identified as self. When self is expressing itself through us, we're claiming it to be that. Yeah, that's the bondage of self. I can say this because I've had relief of it, not as any Herculean task, just by simply recognizing what has defeated me. Yeah. And something gave me the eyes to see that. And now I'm going to keep lending it to everyone else. Yeah. Because I know it's right at the tip of your tongue. Have you ever seen when people share at AA meetings and they go, I can't believe everyone sounds just like me, seems to think just like me, did the crazy things that I did. And I'm going, you're right at the cliff, just jump. And then it sucks you back in. Oh, but it's still me. It's my terminal uniqueness. These are my thoughts. These are my actions. They're not your thoughts. The following of those the same thoughts are shared by many. This is how it defeats us. My thoughts. This is how it defeats us. My selfishness, my self-centeredness. This is how it defeats us. My big plans and designs, instead of noticing they are little plans and designs. This is how it defeats us all day. Yeah. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Check it out. So, all right, I'm going to go back from mine. Driven by 100 forms. Can you be the driver if you're the driven? I've never got in the car and drove it and was driven by it. No. Driven by 100 forms of fear. Here comes the word again: self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. This one, 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. They throw fear in, and then it's self. Clue. You're not that. Clue, right on page 62. 3 of them right now face. In 2 sentences, self has been said 5 times. Yeah. All right. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on our toes. So self-seeking isn't ours. We're being driven by the self-seeking. Yes? We're not the driver of the self-seeking. We're being driven by the self-seeking. We've been driven by the self-delusion. We've been driven by fear. We've been driven by self-pity. But it's not our pity. It's not our fear. It's not our centeredness. It's not our delusion. It's self-delusion. Yes? What is one of the greatest, biggest delusions of self, the system of self, is self cannot get out of self. It can learn a lot of shit. It cannot learn that. It cannot learn it. Haven't you had that experience? You switched from vodka to wine to white to red to da to dee to da, got spiritual, went back out, got busy, got a good job, went back out. Yeah. We try to cheat. We run into walls. The truth is right there, and we just back up and get into another vehicle. This is self. This is a self-driven life. Yeah. When it's confronted with its unmanageability, it says, oh, if I only manage better, it's going to get great. Yeah. It's unbelievable. It just does not get it. So we try on, yes, here we go. And self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation. Yeah, the simple story is you're making eyes with this girl at the bar. The guy who's her boyfriend sees that, comes over to you, punches you in the face. Your story doesn't start as, oh, I was making eyes with the girl at the bar. It starts with, some guy just walked up to me and punched me in the face. What the fuck? I wasn't doing anything. Yeah, roll back the tape. There you are, motherfucker. And this is what it says right here. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find, roll back the tape a little. Yeah, we invariably find at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in the position to be hurt. That could be a second in the past, a year in the past, a half hour in the past. Yes? So something drives us to a point, and then we come to there, and we're super clear about everyone who's fucking with us, but we're not clear about what we did to get there, to be fucked with. Yes, yes. I have this with my nephew. Every time he goes to a rehab, he knows all of this, all of the inadequacies of the rehab, and his roommate and everything, has no idea what brought him to the rehab. It's almost as he was like parachuted in there. Yeah. He doesn't see his role in things. It's insane. And this is going on for years, 25 years. Yeah, I would love my life to start on February 1st, 1980. Because January 30th, 1980, I got ran over by the car. But I got run over by the car. My life didn't start at February 1st, 1980. Yeah. Something happened that had a huge effect on my life. Well, here. Sometimes all right. Do you see that? This is why we do the inventory, to see what it looked like how the manifestations of self coincide with decisions based on self. Yeah. And so our troubles, this is where I disagree humbly with the book. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. I do not believe we make the troubles. I believe we're burdened with the troubles by an oppressive foreign agent, so to speak. I do. I think we're carrying something else's load. You're not going to convince me otherwise. That's just how I've seen it. Yeah. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. We're getting closer there. I would say I would drop the hour, and they arise out of self. Yeah. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. So I believe they arise out of self. There's decisions based on self. The manifestations of self defeat us. All the while, we are not the origin of our defeat. Yeah. Therefore, we can be free from what has defeated us. We can. We don't have to try to change what has defeated us to stop defeating us so we can be free as what has defeated us. We can be free from what has defeated us. I don't think you can be free as what has defeated you. It may give you a little freedom, but it's still going to have a lot of bonding activity on you. Yeah, I do. That's just my humble view of it. So I truly believe freedom is from self, not as self, or with self, or through self, or by self. I think it's from self. Yeah. And how can it, the only way it can be from self is you're not self. Yeah. All right. So these arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. You don't see that as the camouflage of the parasite. You're completely obsessed with self, and at the same time, your running module is you don't think so. Have you ever met a person coming into AA? They seem to be the most angry person you ever said, and they tell you, honestly, I don't have any resentments. They're seething with fucking anger and spite, but they don't see it. Why? Something doesn't want them to know how selfish the life is it that has been. Yes? Don't you see it? The parasite takes you over and then makes us fucking dumb. In a lot of diseases, are you the last one to know? Are you the last one to know you have cancer? Are you the last one to know that you have the flu? No. But in this case, we're usually the last one to know it. Doesn't that make you suspicious? What's going on? If I'm so fucked, why am I not getting unfucked? I believe it's a camouflage, tell you the truth. So our troubles, I don't believe are of our own making. Oh, above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. Yeah. Well, you want to get rid of selfishness? Get rid of self. You might have, hey, why take the one rotten apple off the tree if they're always going to be rotten apples? Get to the root of the fucking thing. Yeah. So we must, oh, wow. Yeah. Above everything. So this is very, very important. We alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them. So what is that but a sort of powerlessness, yes? You know better, but you can't do better. So something is blocking you off. and you're in a state of powerlessness, yeah? Because something has taken you over. So, and you're under the delusion that you have power, just like that statement of the guy when confronted with all his unmanageability just says, if I only manage better, it will work out. Yeah? This is delusion, yes? It's like a trance that's cast on us. We're the last ones to know. We're incredibly driven by self. We have no fucking idea of it. Everything that this foreign agent's doing through us, we claim to be ours. Yeah. Yeah. Many of us had, here we go. Neither could we reduce, this is great right here, but we could not live up to these, even though we would have liked to. Yeah. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. Yes? Isn't this beautiful? Self is not going to get out of self. We had to have God's help. Please, yes. It doesn't say, oh, maybe it's a good eye. We had to. This is not like, oh, I'm just picking what place I'm going to vacation at. No, this is primal. You have to fucking get clear. Yeah. So, yeah. I think in that 2 paragraphs, self's mentioned probably 11 times. Where are you mentioned? Not much. But I bet you every time you heard a description of self, you thought it was a description of you. What is that but a bondage of self? Yes? You're hearing a clear description of self, and you're thinking it's a clear description of you. That's scary, man. How are you going to get rid of self if you're included in self? You know what I mean? Every time you throw out the garbage, there's one piece of garbage goes back in you. It's crazy. Yeah. So hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy, super happy to be sober. None of this would be possible if I was in the craving of wanting to shoot some coke. Yeah. None of this. This is the land of possibility, freely open to us by being sober, by being in the habit of being sober. We wouldn't be talking about this shit or hearing about this shit. We'd be living under that fucking shit. Those demands would be the imperative, yes? Yeah. Thank God we're relieved of that bondage. Jeez. Man. You know, it's a lot of the greatness of AA is the absence of tons of shit. Yeah. How can you weigh the absence of stuff? But if you've lived under those rocks and now you're not living under those rocks, the absence of the rocks are unbelievable. Even to this day, I'm super grateful after 36 years. Yeah. And if I don't feel like I'm grateful, just go to a meeting and listen to someone who's under those rocks. Yeah. Wow. If that's not going to engender humility, I don't know what it will. Because there but through the grace of God go I, obviously. Yeah. Who knew that there was going to be a bottom that you were going to move up from? Who knew that? I thought it was hopeless at the end. Truly, I didn't see it as, oh, this could be seemingly hopeless. No, it was fucking 100% hopeless. Yeah. I had given up all hope a while ago. And I just wanted to stay obliterated until the next jail, institution, or death that I visited. Really? Yeah. I mean, and yet I was still walking and moving and just a fucking like a vertical corpse, so to speak. Totally hollowed out by this parasite. Yeah. Yeah. Many of us have come back from the dead. Yeah. Yeah. Supposedly Jesus resurrected in 3 days last week. Maybe for us, it may be 3 years, 3 months, 9 months, day at a time. But truly, we've come back from the dead. Yeah, yeah. So, all right.
Okay, so if anyone has, oh, somebody raised their hand. I just want to say,
Beforehand, Drew wanted to come in.
I know, but I just wanted to say if anyone has a question for Paul, you can raise your virtual hand. And I just also wanted to say you reminded me of the first woman I sponsored in my early sobriety looked at me after she was probably a year sober, I don't know, maybe a little more than that, and said, if there was a brain surgery that could cut alcoholism out of my brain and allow me to drink normally, I would do it. And I looked at her with no comprehension of what she was saying because I was so happy to be sober and living this change of life. But she ended up drinking after 10 years we were together. And I thought, I don't know. I didn't know if there was something different I could have said to her back then, you know what I mean? But if that's something that I can share with people, if anybody ever has somebody say that, maybe Paul can like say, well, what would you do if somebody said that to you? Like, wait, I think I have something for you, you know? Anyway, that was just my thoughts. We'll just go to Drew.
One thing before Drew, Kathleen, is I've come to believe I just don't know when I meet people, and then you just respond to what happens. I don't have any rote answer, but I can forecast their future. See them as a real addict and a real alcoholic. There's no variance really. It's just like the way that the chairs on the Titanic were set look different, but you're going under. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. All right, Drew.
Hey Paul, it's good to see you. Um, yeah, I'm having a hard time pinning down what I mean or how I understand what you mean when you say self. I've heard you talk about selfing before and self as a movement, but I don't think I understand. I feel like I kind of get the idea that I'm not that, but I don't, yeah, I don't think I have a precise definition of what I mean or how I understand self.
Well, keep coming back. This is a safe place for that to grow and not get stomped on quickly. Yeah. Just keep coming back. More gets revealed. This is what it says. This power is constantly revealing to us. So, yeah. Yeah, that's what I would just come back. Hear the ideas and let that which hears it, not you, but what actually hears it, see what it does with it. Yeah. Yeah. This is how it happened with me. I didn't know the day I saw self as foreign to me was coming. And I thought, and maybe I'd seen it intellectually foreign to me, but when it really had weight, it was a sudden recognition of something that was stewing for a while. And that recognition never got unrecognized. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want, the selfing is a good place. See it as an activity. If you're looking for self as a thing, you're looking as self. So that's not going to work. Yeah. So, but if you when you see selfing as an activity, it gives you a sense of where you really are. And there's a lot revealed there. So just keep showing up if you like. Yeah.
Could I ask a follow-up on that? So when I think of selfing as an activity, I take it to mean acting under the belief that like I'm somewhere in this picture. I'm like somewhere in what's going on, and that I'm an independent actor in the setup, or to
Yeah,
borrow your words, I'm the action figure.
yes.
So it's not that the action figure is self, but selfing is action under the action conditioned by the belief that I'm the action figure. Is that fair?
Well, it's actually the belief that you're the doer of shit and the thinker of stuff and the seer and the hearer and the feeler and the taster and the toucher when you're actually not. You're an idea that comes after the conscious contact, not before it. So the idea of you is manufactured by the claiming of what's happening. Yeah. What's happening? I'm not saying to who or to what, but the act of what's happening, the living event. If you are the beginning and end of it all, then you can see like the beginning, and the beginning is conscious contact. So consciousness, or the ability to and awareness, becomes conscious of things through these vehicles of eyes, ears, touch, taste, smell. Yes. And so, but it isn't the eye that sees, obviously, because if the body died and the existence seemed to left the body, and that eye was perfectly okay, but would never see again, could be transplanted into a living body and would facilitate seeing. Yeah. So the eye is not seeing, the ear is not hearing. There's hearing through the ear, there's seeing through the eye. Let's be clear. Yeah. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, the seeing or the seer? If you look at it, seeing, yeah? And the seer is not even essential for seeing to occur. Consciousness is, but the seer isn't. So seeing doesn't need a seer, but a seer completely depends on the seeing. Yeah, because it's by the claiming of the seeing that the head presents you as the seer. This is the bondage of self. This is selfing. This is the beginning of it. And then it just riffs off of this. Yeah. So now that the idea of being the seer comes after the seeing, but now is presupposed to be before the seeing. And now all the seeing, you're taken to be the seer of it all. Yeah. And then the head just tries to patch all of the huge holes of its logic all fucking day. And then has you running with a narrative being driven by self. Some go extreme, and there's a seeking for a solution to that. So you start drinking and using, and then that becomes a form or a vehicle for the expression of addiction. Yeah. And then there you go. So seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling is the basis of our experience. Seer, hearer, feeling, tasting, touching, taster, toucher is an interpretation of that experience from the head. Very simple. The head gives you an interpretation, maybe would have been nice, but now the interpretation has taken the place of the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. So now you're the seer at the expense of seeing. You're the hearer at the expense of hearing. Yes. And no matter what you do with that basis set, nothing gets you out of that basis. Yeah. But if you see the basis as not you, you see the real relief is recognizing you're not in it, not succeeding in getting out of it, because those are only going to be very temporary successes. But when you see you're not in it, that's relief. Yeah. That's the relief from the need to escape. That's the relief from the need to be liberated. That's the relief. The relief is seeing you're not in what you think you're in. And therefore you lose interest in all the ways of getting out. You just do. And then it's obviously you've always been here because you're really here right now. I can't say it any better, I guess. I hope you get a little sense of it. Yeah?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, there you go. Look at the essentials. this word is ing. The interpretation is er. And it's really good because you should be in an emergency room listening to this interpretation. So everything is verbing. The head comes up with a noun is the doer of all the verbing, and there you go. Now you feel like you've done shit you've never had anything to do with, and that bondage of self gets heavier and heavier. And then the demand for relief gets louder and louder, and then you act out. You're driven to do something, and then once you do it and cross the line, it's going to be very difficult not to do it. And this is what happens for many of us. And many of us never get pulled back out of that water. They die drunk. They die, they shoot up and overdose. Yes? Yeah. There is a solution. That's the great news. Yeah. Yeah. You play the role. You can play the role of the problem. You can play the role of the solution. Yeah. If you are, as they truly say, you are what you're looking for, that's the role of the solution. Yeah. You are that which you're looking from is the birth of the problem. There you go. Yeah. The relief is not produced, it's found. It's not manufactured, it's discovered. Yeah. You lose interest in the selfing sufficiently that you discover the obvious right underneath your nose. That's how it goes. That's how it seemingly went. I'm just reporting in. I'm looking at it from a reverse engineering position, and I'm sharing you how it looks. Yeah. So the relief I'm enjoying right now is not well earned. Yeah. It's not a goal of meritocracy. It's relief from all that drive. It's a relief from all these unnecessary needs that are just disguised wants. Yeah. That's all they are. Disguised wants, as if I'm gonna die if this doesn't happen. Yeah. There's relief. We're looking for relief from the problem. The relief is before it, not after it. You got to deal with it when you're living in the after of it. You do. You may have to go into a rehab. You may have to do this. You may have to do that. You're not going to do it forever, but there's going to be things you need to do if you're always in the after of everything. But when you get relief from all the afters, you're going to find out you're from the before, you know? Like what did Jesus say? You know, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. Yeah. You're in this world of problems, but you're not of the problem. This problem has you of the problem. You're identified as the problem. Yeah. So you're in this world of problems as a problem. That's a bad combination. Yeah. So you're in this world, but you're not of this world. Hallelujah. Yeah. Yeah. In this world, I'm a recovered alcoholic, but I'm not of alcoholic. I am not of alcoholism. Alcoholism is foreign to me. It is. I am not of alcoholism. I'm in this world as a recovered alcoholic. I am. Here we are. But I'm not of alcoholism. Yeah, I'm not. I have a nature that's not the nature of alcoholism. I have a nature that's not an addictive nature. I have it. Yeah, I am it, really. I don't have it. Now, the head has its own dilemmas. Yeah. And a lot of us are mixed up. We think the head's problems are ours. Yeah. We think the head's ideas are ours. And if the head feels scared, we say, I'm scared. And if the head hates someone, I hate that person. And in fact, it's not true. Yeah. Yeah. The head has us. I've watched people, I watched them. Yeah. The head says it's afraid, which it is, because anything that's trying to act like a solid thing, that's like a phantom cloud, is afraid to be discovered. Yeah. So the head, so I'm afraid. And then the person immediately claims to be afraid. I watch it. It's almost insane. It's like something has it comes up with a fucking weird idea. Oh, I'm never going to be happy. And then the person says, I'm never going to be happy, like that. The person did not come up with it. It was given to them. It was like a treat. The head oh, you're you're going to be bummed out the rest of your life. Hey, I'm going to be bummed out. Yes, I've watched it. It's not you. You're like something calls and you play the reaction to it. It goes, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. And you know what? It's telling the truth all the time when it says my resentment. It's true. It's the head's resentment. Why do you keep calling it your resentment? You're not the head. The head is telling the truth. These are my resentment, my fears. It's true. The head is afraid. The head is resentful. The head is very small. It's myopic, but you're not. Yeah. We've lived long enough trying to live as the head. Fuck. You have people who write journals. If they look at their earliest journals, it's the same thing. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. No, you're not. The head just said you are. And then you just get in line. And then, of course, you got to find things up that, what am I afraid of? Oh, I'm afraid of this and that. No, you're not. Have you ever been in a car accident? Maybe you've been afraid of getting into a car accident your whole life, but when you're actually in the accident, there's no fear. There's none. It's a super crystal clear clarity. Yeah, it is. I was in one. I was in a few events. The thinking about the future effect of that event, not in that moment, was completely wrong. All the fear was before the event you were afraid of. Yeah? When you got to the event, there was no fear. When I was twirling around in the car, time slowed up. I was fiddling my thumbs, waiting to hit the wall to see how bad it was. I swear to God, I could have knitted a sweater, it seemed. It was going so slow, and I was as clear as fucking the morning dew. I was just, yeah. Then, of course, when it hit the wall and you come to, the story ensues. Yes. Yeah. You do not start as I'm afraid. That is not the starting point. It isn't. It isn't. That's been manufactured. It's not the starting point. You're the starting point. Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much evidence. Just wear these glasses. I mean, you know those movies where they have the 3D? So you can see the movie without the 3D, but when you put the 3D, it really enlivens the whole fucking thing. Hey, here's a pair of glasses, try them. Yeah. Are you looking through the lens of self most of the day, and everything the way it sees, you think you see, the way it feels, you think you feel? It's harboring resentments. They're your resentments. Yes. Is there a distinct separation between its condition and your condition? I believe so. Has that been fogged over by the head's activity? I also believe that's so. Yeah. Get sober, do what we do, live a certain way for a while. You'll get into the habit of being sober and shit's going to clear up. Yeah. That smoke machine, yeah, is going to run out of gas. You're going to see shit. Yeah. Like in Zen, you're going to see blue as blue and red as red. If you're fucked, you're gonna know you're fucked. And when you're not fucked, you're gonna know that also. So you're not acting like, but I'm gonna be fucked, or I was fucked, but you're not now. You'll be here recognizing what's available now. Wow. It'll be almost like a superpower that you already had all the time. Yeah. So yeah. And come back if you're interested. Come back in, if you're not interested. We're here all the time, and we'll have a meeting later at 4:30 Pacific time, and yeah. My showing up isn't based on how I feel. It isn't. It's not based on anything. I just show up. Yeah. If I relied on that head, it's so fickle, it would tell me I haven't done enough good things today to warrant to being in the position of being a hose with this lovely water. The water doesn't give a shit about the hose's condition. It has an urge to flow, so whatever. Yeah, I don't have to polish the hose. The point is, the hose is a delivering mechanism. It's not the deliverer. It's a delivering mechanism. It plays a very small role. It's the message, What was that thing, what they used to say here? It's the message, stupid. It's the economy, stupid, or something like that. It's the message, stupid, not the messenger. I don't like this guy, Paul Hedderman. That doesn't matter. Yeah. You don't like the message? Wow. All right. You tell me what's wrong with it. Yeah. You show me an event in life where self got out of self. And I bet you if there's a time limit, it's going to fail. It may get out seemingly for 10 seconds or once the rush going through your heart and your brain. But yeah, it's going to be short-lived with lots of consequences later. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, for today. We'll be here at 4:30 if you want to. 4:30 Pacific time. Michael, you going to come today? That's good. Thank you. All right, Michael Stacy. He's one of the backbone. So is everyone here. We got Kerry, backbone, Kathleen, Axel. We got Terry and Camarillo, Mickey, Joseph, France, Sean, Minnesota. I think it's Minnesota. Hank Kelderman from the Nordic area. I don't know which one there. James Lebowski. We got Karen, Ray, John M. Nice to see John, Bill Churchman, Kathy in Cleveland, Mark S., Jeffrey in Seattle, delivering eyes or ears or whatever, noses. John K., John in Florida, Regina in the San Francisco area, I think. Miss Volkman. Yes, yeah. Jamil Lynn, nice to see you. Phone number, Rick Lebeau, Grace, listening. I wonder which Grace it is. Andrew, Dylan Mick, nice to see you, Dylan. Reed, Miak, Oliver, Fletch, Paula. Hey, listen. Oh, Roman, my main man over there. Regina. Hey, thanks, everyone. Thanks for letting this insane inmate have its. This is my cathartic event before the Jello gets presented. So, all right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, everyone.
Yes.